Antiwar.com, NATO's top military officer floats idea of preemptive strike on Russia. Russia called the rhetoric extremely irresponsible. You don't fucking say. NATO's top military officer has floated the idea of the Western alliance conducting a preemptive strike on Russia, a comment that drew sharp rebuke from Moscow. Admiral Giuseppe Cavo-Dragone, the chair of NATO's military committee, made the provocative comment in the context of discussing alleged Russian hybrid attacks, quote unquote, in Europe. He told the Financial Times that a preemptive strike could be considered a defensive action, but added that it is further away from our normal way of thinking and behavior. Oh yeah, real different. NATO would never preemptively strike anybody. No, never. Being more aggressive compared with the aggressivity of our counterpart could be an option. Ah, yes. The issues are legal framework, jurisdiction framework, and who is going to do this, the Italian admiral said. Be more aggressive than the aggressor. Someone's a preemptive strike. Gee, I wonder if that's something they wanted all along. The Russian Foreign Ministry called Dragone's comments extremely irresponsible and said it could be an effort to undermine peace talks around Ukraine. People who make such statements should be aware of the risks and potential consequences, including for the alliance members themselves, said Russian spokeswoman Maria Zakharova. Zakharova also criticized NATO officials for constantly hyping the threat of Russian attack on Europe, saying that, quote, against the backdrop of the anti-Russia hysteria being whipped up by the alliance and the fear-mongering about the inevitable attack by Russia on the bloc's member states, such statements not only add fuel to the fire, but also seriously escalate the already existing confrontation, unquote. While NATO officials are constantly claiming, without providing evidence, that Russia is involved in sabotage attacks in Europe, the US and NATO, are openly supporting drone and missile attacks inside Russian territory. The US recently restarted its support for Ukrainian strikes inside Russia using US and British provide missiles. Funny how we never get Amy on Democracy Now! Telling us about those strikes on Russia, right? All we hear about is the Russia strikes on Ukraine. This many civilians killed, that many civilians killed, and like war is bad and I want it to stop. But there is a very specific reason why these NPR fucking radio outlets like Democracy Now! Constantly repeat the atrocity propaganda only on one side, talking about Russia doing this, Russia doing that, Russia struck here, Russia struck there, Russia killed this many, Russia killed that many. Right? And not mentioning any of the military targets that Russia is aiming at or hitting either. And at the same time, not mentioning any of the attacks from Ukraine on Russia, which are not even aimed at fucking military or infrastructure supporting targets, but just at literal civilian targets outright. Right? No speak of that. And again, to reiterate, I don't support the war, but I understand that the entire start of the war against Russia, the conflict, quote unquote, in Ukraine, is entirely of the making of NATO. They planned this war for years and years. They knew Russia's red lines that could not be stepped over without provoking a war, and they purposely went as far over that red line as possible in order to exhilarate Russia's need to shore up its defenses and address the issue. And up into the point where they actually overthrew a government that was neutral, really, to both the West and Russia, and brought in an outright fascist government that began implementing an anti-Russian speaker pogroms against its own population, especially in the Donbass area, which of course led to a declaration of leaving Ukraine and then asking Russia to come in and help, which is the whole reason Russia first rushed Kiev to try and get it to agree to conditions. All this, though, after it opened diplomatic channels first. So to say that Russia is equally responsible, or Russia started the war, is to completely miss the forest for the trees and to completely misunderstand how imperialism undermines the sovereignty and the ability and the defensive capability of other countries and stokes other countries into war. Whether it's other imperialist powers like it did in World War II with Japan, or with an anti-imperialist power as is the case with Russia. Russia today, being a very big country, does not automatically mean that it's imperialist. It has to be imperialist for it to be imperialist. And Russia is not. In today's climate, which is far different than in Lenin's time, we don't have the competing imperialist powers in the same way we did in the time of the inter-imperialist war. Because lessons that were learned during the inter-imperialist war led to a changing of ideas, led to a changing of strategy by the imperialists, realizing that doing the same thing again would reproduce the same results of mutinies and even another Russian Revolution potentially, which then led to a chain of liberation and revolutionary movements breaking out all across Asia and even all the way to fucking Cuba, right? So understanding that, they realized that what they had to do was really shore up existing imperialism as it was and come to arrangements in different ways. Little clashes break out here and there, but nothing like what the inter-imperialist war was ever since then. World War II was the closest, but the people who call that an inter-imperialist war, there was inter-imperialist struggle going on, but the main thing of World War II was a struggle of anti-fascist forces against the forces of fascism, which were trying to stamp out those anti-fascist forces before they got stronger. It was fascism trying to save capitalism from global communism. Global capitalism global capitalism trying to save itself from global communism is what World War II really is a reflection of, more than an inter-imperialist war. Of course, imperialists on this side and that side took advantage of war being openly engaged with other powers to try and carve out this territory or that territory. Of course they did. They're opportunists. That's what they do. But they're not the same in that respect. And then after World War II, that imperial order becomes even more solidified. And like I've talked about before on this channel, in the current conditions, in the current world that we live in, Russia, as a nation, as a country, it fulfills and it plays an anti-imperialist role. And I say that without apologizing. I say that without flinching. It doesn't have to be itself socialist to be anti-imperialist. Like, read Lenin, read Stalin on this. The contradiction of imperialism being dealt with allows for the contradiction of capitalism to be more easily dealt with. Because imperialism is the most important contradiction that needs dealing with first. It's the contradiction that does not allow one to address imperialism to address capitalism in their own country in many cases. Now, Russia, because of the type of country that it is, Russia could change at any time. Its bourgeoisie, or the current band of brothers that is in control of the Russian government, or that the Russian government reflects, could be changed into compradors, who then align with US imperialism and allow Russia to just be an extraction colony. That could happen, but that's not the way it is right now. And right now, Russia constitutes a force that not only opposes imperialism directly itself, but also strengthens other anti-imperialist forces like DPRK, like Cuba, like in Africa, anti-imperialist liberation struggles. It empowers there far more than any harm that it does in the world. And again, I say that without flinching. And I also say that if you are a communist, especially a Marxist-Leninist, and you fail to stand with Russia and push back against the anti-Russian propaganda, then you're being a bad communist. And that's the Larry take on Russia. I hope you enjoyed my little talk here. If you did, please consider liking, subscribing to the channel, maybe even sharing my video. Also, right now we are going through some financial difficulties, so if you would like to help me continue making videos like I am right here, if you would like to help encourage me to make more of them, please consider giving to my Ko-Fi. You can do one time or a monthly. I also have a plumbing emergency, which I'm raising some funds for. So any contribution is a huge help and also allows me to continue making videos just like these even more frequently. Thank you for your consideration, comrades. Red salute.